Video game movies. There have been a lot of them. One's already out in the theater, Sonic the Hedgehog. I have no plans to see that one, but that's just my personal preference. But anyway, there's a lot of video game movies. So many, in fact, that... But there have been a few successful video game movies that have spawned franchises. One such video game series would have been the Paul Anderson series that I did for the Horrorween sequel-a-thon alongside Underworld, which is not a video game series. They also have other weird things that were not successful. I've talked about the Uwe Boll movies, but you get movies like this that take the basic video game but don't replicate what the actually was made from the video game. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes here. It doesn't really capture, it tries to be the video game, but it doesn't capture the spirit of the video game. Sadly, I don't have the good cover art for Blood Rain 1, so we're just going to pull that over to the side, and we'll borrow Blood Rain 2. This was going to be, this game would have based in the fourth movie where Rain is fighting her siblings, whereas in this thing pretty much is this, but without the vampire hunting portion. You do have a scene with her fighting vampires, but it's never mentioned. And you can also base the source of there was an actual comic book. I don't know how canon the comic books are to the video games, but they follow and borrow the mythos from the games themselves and what they could expand in their series that I've talked about. I reviewed this during my first season of Horrorween, was the Resident Evil trilogy of CGI movies. We've got Degeneration, Damnation, and Vendetta. All these took their elements from the games, not the Paul Anderson movies, although this movie ripped off John Wick with some of the gun shooting scenes. This movie is more of a follow-up before Resident Evil 6, and afterwards, at least in theory, and then Degeneration follows after Resident Evil 4, following in with the continuity of the video games, because it's after Resident Evil 4 but before RE5, after RE5 but before RE6, after RE6 but before Resident Evil 7, and the character model for Chris. The reason I'm bringing those movies up again is because the same company that produced the third movie also produced the Starship Trooper movies, mostly being Sola Digital, which is owned by Sega, and helped bring about the whole digital thing. Having video game tie-in movies, like the animated movie for Dragon Age, Dawn of the Seeker, which pretty much takes the concept from Dragon Age Origins, brings back talking about the Seeker, who is the main character in the first Dragon Age Origin game, and takes its ideas from it. Another series was also the Anchor Bay related manga entertainment Dead Space Downfall, which follows quite well from the first game, being a prequel to the first game, even though the first game had a prequel on the Wii with Dead Space Containment, or I think it's Dead Space Containment, don't hold me on that. And then followed by a somewhat mediocre sequel, which was half animation, half 3D CGI, which I guess they were trying to go for a more cheaper effect for this movie. Then again, the movie itself is not bad, it just doesn't follow along with what happened in the first movie. But again, the continuity is kind of shot out the window, because at the end of the game, it does reference Jason Isaacs was captured by the guys who captures the person in Aftermath. Well, I could go on with a whole entire list of video game movies, but one successful movie was actually Mortal Kombat. Compared to something like the Super Mario Brothers, which came out and was a ginormous flop, Mortal Kombat was popular to the point that it was released with a PG-13 rating. It was created by Paul Anderson, the same guy who would do Resident Evil. And he's also got a movie coming out for Monster Hunter. So yeah, Capcom's apparently feels fine with keeping him in their pay with video game movies. Netflix has also picked up the rights to make a Resident Evil TV series for their originals. Sadly, this is going to be focusing on Albert Wesker's daughters, which... How many kids does Wesker have now? My goodness, it's like every time you hear they try to get lore from Resident Evil, it's always Wesker. Like you had Jake Wesker from the... Or Jake Muller, who's actually Wesker's son from Resident Evil 6. But he's not brought up. This is just about his two daughters. And then that's it. There's no real build-up there. They're just talking about the Umbrella Corporation being... Apocalypse happens and Umbrella Corporation controls the world. So I don't know if this is like following the Paul Anderson style of storyline where he retcons his own continuity for all the movies. All the way up until the 6th and final chapter. In retrospective though, most of the video game movies, like the CGI Resident Evil movies, are done really well. And there are some video game movies, like the original Mortal Kombat, that were done right. At least the first movie. Mortal Kombat Annihilation is what killed the franchise, leading to two sort of webisode style series of Mortal Kombat Legacy, before finally returning that they are going to bring out a new Mortal Kombat movie. But from what I heard, they're deciding to make Raiden a young woman or something, or just a young child Raiden, so I don't get the whole thing. Well, I'll just have to wait and see. There's a lot of movies that are going to come out, or, I mean, development hell, anyway, that we're going to just have to wait and see. But this is my quick discussion on just video game movies in general. This doesn't necessarily define all the video game movies that have been made. There's some I've missed, but that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I also forgot to mention that the Sonic movie actually did something right and actually listened to the fans. Most video game movies don't do that. So thank you all for listening.